Hi, I'm Lauren Consul. I'm the mental health educator here at IVC. In this video, we are going to be talking about how to utilize our thoughts to manage our emotions. And in these video series, I have been talking about cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. And we've looked at how powerful our thoughts are. We've looked at cognitive distortions so we can start to recognize and notice our unhelpful thoughts. And in this video, we are going to put it all together and learn what to actually do with these unhelpful thoughts that we've noticed. So if you haven't watched those other videos yet, be sure to go back and check those out first, because this video will make a lot more sense. So let's dive right in. What we're going to be talking about today is something I like to call name it, claim it, tame it, and reframe it. This is how I like to think about learning to shift and challenge our unhelpful thoughts. So once you've identified the unhelpful thoughts and recognized, okay, this is a thought that's not very helpful, it's kind of sending down that unhelpful spiral, what do I actually do about it? Well, this is what we do. So first is name it. And with naming it, we have to recognize and identify our thoughts before we're able to change them. So this is where those cognitive distortions come into play. And this is just this is the list that we went over in the other video. So again, be sure to check that out if you haven't watched it yet, because it goes into more depth about what each of these cognitive distortions actually are. But essentially, once we recognize our cognitive distortions, we will we just want to recognize the unhelpful thought, cognitive distortion, and we want to shift it. So first, though, to shift it, we have to recognize it. So again, being able to know what kind of unhelpful thought patterns we tend to fall into can be really helpful in us in being able to do that. So name it, identify when we're having an unhelpful thought. So we go, okay, I'm aware of my unhelpful thought. Okay, check. Number one, I know what to do about it. I use this example in another video, but it's really helpful of thinking about your car. Something's going on with your car, you bring it to the mechanic. They first have to identify where the problem is before they can do anything else. So in name it, we're just identifying the problem, the unhelpful thought. Next, what you want to do is claim it. So claim it is about recognizing that you are in control of your thoughts. Now, there isn't as much of kind of a to-do list here in claim it, but it's a really important part of shifting your thought. And what you want to do is first recognize that you are in control of your thoughts. So this is claiming it, taking ownership of your thoughts. Because when you start to say, I am in control of my thoughts, I can do something about it, it says, I have autonomy over my thoughts. This is something I can do and do differently, rather than just feeling you have to be necessarily a victim of your thoughts. You can take ownership and do something about it. Now, I like to think of thoughts, so we aren't necessarily in control of what thoughts come into our head. And I like to think of the metaphor of, we can't control who comes to our door and knocks on our door, right? We may be able to put signs up, but we can't control if somebody walks up to our front door and knocks on it. But what we can control is whether we open the door, whether we even answer the door, whether we invite that person in, whether we let them sit down, get them a glass of water, make it nice and cozy for them, or if we ask them to leave. So same with our thoughts. We can't necessarily control what thoughts pop up into our mind, but we can control what we do with those thoughts. Are we going to ignore those thoughts? Are we going to engage with them? Are we going to let them kind of take up residence in our brain? So when you take this ownership, when you claim your thoughts and say, okay, I do have control, I'm not just helpless in my thoughts, it gives you more, it empowers you to be able to do something and helps you shift these thoughts. Now, also in claim it, of recognizing that your thoughts are separate from you. So this is also that idea of mindfulness. You know, if you've ever done any type of mindfulness or meditation, there's a lot of like separating yourself from the thought. And the reason is really creating that space between yourself and the thought, is recognizing that your thoughts are not you. You know, just because you think them doesn't mean that they make up who you are or are representative of you. When you put that separation, it really reinforces that I am in control of my thoughts. I can do something about these thoughts. They are not me. My thoughts are not me. I can do something about them. And claim it's all about feeling like we can do something about our thoughts. The last part of claim it is thoughts are not facts. We tend to think, okay, we thought it, it must be true. And that's not actually fact. Now, I can imagine most of you, if not all of you, I'd guess all of you, at some point have done something and gone, I'm so stupid. Now, I would bet all the money in the world that you are not stupid, but you had that thought. So you see, it doesn't necessarily make it true just because you have that thought. So claiming it's really important about saying, okay, just because I think something doesn't mean it's true. I get to decide whether it's true or not. I get to decide how much this thought has power over me. I get to decide and take ownership of that thought. So again, really saying, claim it's all about saying, I can control my thoughts. I can do something about this. Going back to that car example, right? We name it, we say, okay, here's the problem. Claim it says, I can do something about this problem. I can fix this. When we feel like we can fix something, then we feel like we can actually do something to fix it. So naming it, identifying it, claiming it, taking ownership, recognizing the thoughts are not me, thoughts are not fact, my thoughts are not fact. I can do something to change it. And then next is tame it. So we've named it, we've claimed it, now we want to tame it. What do you do? What do you choose to do with your thoughts? So you've recognized this unhelpful thought. You've told yourself, okay, I can do something about it. Now what do you do with it? So you see that you have this unhelpful thought. Now you want to play judge and jury for this thought. You want to say, what is the evidence that supports this thought as true? And what is the evidence that goes against this thought? So again, going back to that cognitive distortions, putting on those glasses that make us see a little funky. We want to say, take those glasses off. What is the reality? What is actually saying this is a true thought or this isn't a true thought? Where is the reality base of this? So sometimes it's enough just to ask yourself that, like, okay, I had this thought, like what says this thought is true and what says this thought is not true? And that can help kind of orient us and balance us on our thought. And we haven't shifted the thought yet. We're just kind of challenging it and looking at it and saying, is this actually a true thought? Now for others, it can be helpful to ask some other questions. Like it may not be enough for us to just kind of say, what's the evidence that says it's true? What's the evidence that says it's not true? Like I said, as you've heard me refer to, this is one tool in your toolbox. So how one person kind of engages with their thoughts may not fit for you. So I like to give kind of different ways for you to look at your thoughts. So again, you might just be able to ask, what evidence supports this thought? What evidence goes against this thought? But some other questions you can kind of ask yourself, and you don't need to ask these questions in order or ask all of them, just what feels like a fit for you is, am I engaging in cognitive distortions? Make it really explicit and think about some of those cognitive distortions. Is this thinking in extremes? Is this catastrophizing? Is this putting on those glasses and seeing a little wonky? It may be helpful to ask yourself, what is the most likely thing to happen? A lot of times our unhelpful thoughts are based on things that are really not likely to happen or really in those extremes. So saying, okay, what's most likely to happen, knowing the evidence that I have? May also be helpful for you to ask, well, what is the worst thing that could happen in a reality-based way, right? What is that? And how bad would that really be? So again, we're shifting to this reality base. Okay, well, if I know this is the worst case and that's how bad it would be, well, I can now do something about that. I can manage that. Another question that might be helpful is, what are the facts of the situation versus what's my interpretation? So again, these are similar versions of the same question, but it might feel differently for you. So looking at really, well, what are the hard facts? What do I know to be actually true? And everything else essentially is my interpretation of it. So is that interpretation wearing those kind of wonky glasses? And last, for some people, it's helpful to ask, well, is this way of thinking helpful for me to achieve my goals? And sometimes that's enough to kind of ground us, okay, this isn't a helpful way of thinking. It's not based in that reality. I'm putting on those wonky glasses. I need to look at this a different way. So that's tame it. In tame it, we're really trying to engage with the thought, actively participate in it. And you've heard me say that before, because a lot of times we just passively consume thoughts. They just come into our brain, we don't do anything about them. But then you can see it can be really destructive if they're unhelpful thoughts and we go down our kind of negative thought spirals. So we want to engage with thoughts. We've recognized that there's a negative thought. We've claimed it. We've said we can do something about it, and then we start to tame it and engage with it. Like, where is the reality in this thought? Like, is this seeing, how do I see this in a more real way? Now, the last step is reframing it. So this is where we actually start to shift the thoughts. We've done a lot of pre-work for this. We've engaged, we found the thought, we've wrestled with it, and now we want to actually shift it so we have a different response, a different thought, a different feeling, and a different behavior. So this is really about learning to shift your perspective. So I like to think of reframing as this kind of old story of this town where there were blind men, and this elephant, they brought this elephant to this town. No one had ever seen an elephant before, and the blind men go to kind of explore the elephant and try to describe what it is. And each person kind of goes to a different part of the elephant, right? There's 5 of them, and they go to different parts of the elephant to try and describe to other people, what is this elephant? And one of them is at the trunk of the elephant, and they're describing as, well, okay, the elephant is like a snake because they're feeling the trunk. And another is actually at the leg and saying, no, an elephant is like a tree trunk, right? It's big and round and solid. And then another is, at the side of the elephant and touching it. It's like, no, the elephant's like a wall. An elephant is like a wall. The fourth one's at the tail and says, no, elephant's like a rope, right? Feeling that tail. And then the last one's at the tusk. And it's like, no, an elephant's like a spear. Right? So all 5 of these men were feeling the elephant and only getting a piece of the picture of what the elephant was. Now, if they had kind of moved around the elephant and taken in the whole picture, they would have seen, well, not seen, but they would have been able to feel and describe a completely different animal and get the whole picture. And so that's what we want to do, because we tend to, with cognitive distortions, with these negative spirals, we focus in on one part. We are only looking at the tail and saying, this is like a rope. When really, if we pull back, it's like, oh, I see the big picture now. This is an elephant. So that's what we want to do. It's not about distorting, right? The distortion is actually when we're focused in. We want to pull back. And now, mind you, like, the picture that we pull back on might not be great. This isn't about putting on rose-colored glasses or saying everything's perfect, everything's great. But it's about saying, what is the reality? Because then when we see the reality, the big picture, we can do something about that. Whether it's, we can changing our thoughts, whether it's finding some coping skills, whatever, we just need to know, what is the big picture? Now, and these can happen in small shifts. We're not trying, again, to go from really, really negative to really, really positive. We just want to move the needle a little bit. So sometimes it may be going from really negative to just a little bit negative. If that's kind of all we can shift something to because of what's going on, great. We just want to move a little more towards neutral or positive, if even possible. And these are small shifts. And this is why our language, our words, our thoughts are so important, because these small shifts can have a big impact. So, like, for example, the word, if we say, or the phrase, if I say, today I have to go to work. Have to kind of makes us feel like there's no choice in this. We have no autonomy. And true, we may need to go to work because we need money, but the way we talk about it can change. Instead of have to, you may say, today I choose to go to work so I can make money to support my family that I love. Again, doesn't mean like you have to be like, oh yes, I love going to work today, this is great. But it's saying, I'm choosing to go to work because I know choosing to go to work means I get to earn money, and earning money means I get to support my family that I love. So it's the same base. It's the same thing. We're not changing the facts of anything that happened. We're trying to make it all positive, like, oh, I love going to work. But just shifting it where we feel a little more in control. That small shift in language. So again, we're not looking for huge leaps and bounds. Small shifts is really what we're going for. So when we're trying to reframe, look at a different thought. Sometimes it can be challenging to come up with a different thought about a situation. So a couple questions you can ask yourself are, what's another way to describe what's happening? All right, how can I look at the big picture of the elephant? What's another way to describe this thing? Because you and I may look at the same picture and describe it really differently. So that's what you're trying to get yourself to do, is describe it differently. Another question you can ask is, how would my friend describe this situation? Now, a lot of times we are much kinder to our friends than we are to ourselves. Some of the things we would say to ourselves, we would never ever say to friends. We are much, much harsher on ourselves. So if we can put ourselves in our friends' shoes and have them describe what's going on and take their kind of kindness that we tend to afford our friends, can help us see a more realistic perspective or have that shift. Then lastly, what else could this mean? Just asking, well, what else could this situation mean? What else could be going on here, essentially? So again, all kind of the same question, just different ways to frame it. And some might land with you and some might not, or some might land better than others. And so it's just really, again, trying to shift this thought. So let's look at a couple examples to kind of make this a little more concrete. So if you have the thought, my friend hates me and will never speak to me again. What you could think instead, how you could shift that thought is, my friend is upset. We'll have to work through this conflict. So you can see it's not about shifting it to something all positive. Your friend is still upset. We're not trying to make that not a thing. Maybe you did do something to upset them. It's just shifting it away from this, they hate me, they're never going to speak to me again, right? Those are those extremes. It's assuming, mind reading what that other person's thinking. So shifting to the reality of they are upset and we're gonna have to work through this conflict. So again, just moving that needle a little bit when we're reframing these thoughts. So another one, I'm a failure. When we say I'm a failure, it's a global attribution. What that means is we're saying as a person, as a whole person, I'm a failure, rather than maybe I failed at this one thing, which those are two very different things. You can fail at something and not be a failure overall. So again, because how powerful our thoughts are, we want to pay attention. So something else you could say instead is, well, this is an opportunity to learn. I made a mistake. I'm still learning. So those are all reframes, ways you can shift your thought and look at the same situation, that same elephant, you pull back and see the big picture. Again, without putting on those glasses, you're still seeing the reality. You still made a mistake probably, or maybe you did fail at something, but you don't want to say, I am a failure of a person. What's the reality? Another example, it's my fault my mom is upset. So again, that is that personalization. It's my fault. It's all my fault. And it's personalization because it's not really letting your mom take any of the responsibility for her feelings. So maybe instead you could shift it to, we're all responsible for our feelings and actions, or I can only control my actions. So again, just shifting to a different way of thinking. It doesn't have to go super positive. That's not what we want. We don't want extremes. We want what's the reality? What's another way of looking at this? Maybe you have a kid, and if you think, my kid won't stop yelling, I'm such a bad parent. So again, this is that global attribution. I'm a bad parent. Maybe you're doing something that's not great in that moment. True, possibly. Maybe your kid's just having a bad day. True, possibly. So we want to look at those things, right? We don't want that global attribution. Just because one thing is happening doesn't mean you were an overall bad parent. So you could change it to, I made a mistake. My child's trying to communicate something to me. This is really frustrating. This is a frustrating moment. I need to learn a better skill, how to respond, something like that, where again, it's about this situation happening this moment right here, not about you as a total parent. So a couple more to go through just to I'm trying to really land this for you guys, this reframing. So if you think, oh, it's too complicated for me to figure out, I can't figure it out, right? A different way to think about it is, well, maybe I'll try a different angle. Maybe I need some help. I need to ask somebody for help. Another example is, there is no way that'll work. You could shift it to, well, I don't know if it'll work yet. You don't know. So again, these small reframes, these small shifts, you can see none of these are really going to, oh yes, it'll absolutely work. It's so positive. That's not what we want. We want more in that middle ground. The last one is, well, no one ever talks to me. Well, no one ever talks to you, right? That's kind of living in that extreme. So maybe it's shifting to, I'm going to reach out to a friend. Maybe I'm doing something that's off-putting and I need to look at what's going on with my behavior. So again, not going to that super positive, but just a different way to reframe. So that is an overview of name it, claim it, tame it, and reframe it. And this is how I look at how to get a hold of our thoughts. So again, we name it, we identify the unhelpful thought. We claim it, we take ownership. We say, I can do something different with this thought. Tame it. We say, okay, what is the actual reality? Where is this baseline? And then based on that, we reframe it to something more positive or neutral to help move us to a more positive spiral. So this, again, this is a quick overview. This is a skill that is a skill and takes time to develop, to learn, and to really integrate into our minds, where it becomes a lot easier. And it does become easier with time. I do mean that. I've seen it with clients that I've worked with where, I'll be working with them on this, and over time they just start doing it themselves. And I actually have to stop them and say, like, hey, did you notice what you just did there? You reframe that thought on your own. It can be kind of integrated. Again, I want to be clear though, it's not a silver bullet. This doesn't mean it's going to work all the time or it's going to solve all the problems. This is just one tool in your toolbox to utilize and see if it helps. But it can be really powerful for a lot of people. So what I want to encourage you to do is just to start practicing this, to start recognizing the thoughts, engaging with your thought, and trying to shift it. And just see how that feels, and really reminding yourself, this is part of that reframe of that this is a new skill you're learning. It's going to take some time to integrate. It's going to take some practice and effort over time. Now, if CBT feels like a fit for you and you want to learn more about it, there are CBT therapists out there. You can reach out to IVC Health and Wellness Center to either be connected for a free short-term therapy with one of our therapists there, or refer it out to help kind of really start to integrate and utilize these tools. But this is something that what you learned today is something you can start practicing right now on your own. But if you want a little extra support, feel free to reach out to us at the Health and Wellness Center.